Hello, welcome back to episode 3 of the Making Fitness More Human podcast with me, Kyle. Welcome. I hope you've had a good day so far. Ramadan Kareem, if you are watching it kind of at the time that we have recorded. And my very, very, very special guest today is NESA, very good friend of mine, who is going to spend the next kind of 45 minutes with us talking a lot of stuff today. So we're super excited. Honestly, we've been speaking just off air just now, and yeah, we're properly excited for this one. So welcome in. Hope you've enjoyed the first 2 episodes so far. And here we go. NESA, first of all, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. So we're going to jump straight in.
Let's go. I'm ready.
2-minute introduction. Tell us about yourself. How did you get here? What's your story? Who is NESA?
Okay, well, I'm originally from Iran. My family moved here when I was 3 months old, so I've lived in Dubai for literally 29 years now. Never left, so I'm like a proper, basically raised Dubai child. I don't know what it's like to live any other life. I went to school here, went to university here. And then I guess in university, to make it more relevant, I started kind of studying fitness while I was in university, getting my degree in PR, media, and advertising. So while I was still doing that, I started studying fitness, getting all of my certifications, started working at a gym. Then I kind of started working in fitness within the scene from there. I did that for about 5-6 years, 7, I guess, now 5 years. By the time I decided to kind of jump out, start my own business in a completely different industry I had no idea anything about. So I went into fashion, started my clothing brand, and a couple years in, I kind of missed that itch to get on the mic. So while I was running my clothing brand, I kind of came back into fitness again. And here I am doing both.
Wow. So for kind of those of you who know you and those who maybe don't know you, your clothing brand is called Nomad.
Yes.
So before we kind of jump in and start speaking about like fitness and stuff, I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to do like a shameless plug.
Okay. I'm pretty shameless.
Exactly right.
I have no shame.
So you just said that you went into an industry that you didn't really know much about. You didn't really study at uni and all these things. So like, where did Nomad come from? Like,
So I kind of, I think a lot of people just love fashion. A lot of, I guess, girls, especially when they're young, like read fashion magazines. It's just something you're obsessed with growing up as a kid. Like I had a fashion wall in my bedroom, literally as far back as I can remember, with all the Vogue, like Harper's, like everything you could think of. I always had all the covers on my wall. I would update it every season. I was just obsessed with it. I was obsessed with clothes. I was obsessed with the art. I was obsessed with everything. And I kind of, as I grew older, I was like, well, I can't draw. I have no experience. I have no idea how I would do anything like this. I don't have that artistic capability, which I thought was kind of a barrier to entry for me. So kind of from when I was 9, it was like a pipe dream of mine. And as I grew older, it kind of became further and further and further away. And I just gave up on it. I was like, forget it. It's just a pipe dream. That will never happen for me. I'll never be the fashion girl. I guess fitness is just my thing. And then 5 years ago, I lost my dad. And after I lost my dad, I was kind of like, so my dad was an entrepreneur. So it's all I knew growing up. He was a businessman. And he had always said to me, like, you're the kid with the business brain. Like, you need to start a business. You have to have a business. Like, anything you want, just do it and I'll support you. And I was like, yeah, Dad, just chill, like, it's fine. I'm enjoying this fitness thing for now. And he's like, but you have the business acumen, just go for it. I guess it was to pay homage to my dad. I wanted to do something to make him proud. I wanted to fulfill that legacy and also do something while my mom's still around that she could look at and kind of be proud of and fulfill a dream, really.
Did you always have the name Nomad, or where did that come from?
No, honestly, naming the business was really hard because it was like, okay, you have this concept, you have this idea, you know what you kind of want to do. Well, what do you call it? And it's like, you want it to be something people remember and all this stuff. And then I kind of got to a point where I was like, well, I want it to be more relevant to me. And I was kind of like, well, I am a nomad. Like, I'm from Iran. I live in a country that I will never actually be from. I'm a US citizen. Like, I don't belong anywhere. I really don't.
Shit, oh my God. But honestly, I think that like kind of both of us now not being from our like native countries, you do feel that when you like move away and I've kind of been bouncing around for the Middle East for like 5-6 years now. That when you go home, like when I go back to Scotland, I'm like everything looks the same, but nothing's the same.
Well, I grew up here, right? So like I have no connection to Iran whatsoever.
Okay.
Like I really don't. Maybe
Do you
when
have
you
any
go
brothers
home.
and sisters?
Yeah, I have a brother and a sister.
Are they older?
Both of them are older, yeah.
So they have a connection, right? Or no?
No.
Oh, you were all brought up here.
Yeah, well, my brother was brought up in the U.S. and me and my
Okay.
sister were brought up here because we're closer in age. But we kind of have no connection to it whatsoever. I think my sister's maybe a little bit more connected to it. I feel no connection to the place. Like I don't. When people say where are you from, I struggle to say it because I really feel no connection to it because this is all I've known. This is my home, but I'm not from here. You know, I'm not Arab. I'm not Emirati. This is all I know.
I'm just Nessa.
I'm just Nessa. It's my own, little unique thing.
Amazing. But no, I love like obviously kind of knowing you and kind of supporting your clothing line and stuff like that. Like it's amazing. Like obviously they kind of, but I've always wondered like where the name come from. So yeah, thank you for, because I've always wanted to ask you this, but I never have.
Yeah. Well,
So
there's
yeah,
your
thank
answer.
you. Okay, well, so just a kind of little recap of why we're even here. So obviously everyone who's going to be in the podcast is going to be working in fitness in some respect. Me and Nessa work at the same studio and kind of known of her for a few years now. And yeah, what we're going to do is kind of spend a little bit of time telling each other about kind of stories with injury, mental health, kind of body image, all these sorts of things. So yeah, fasten your seatbelts and
Buckle up.
here we go. So the first thing I want to talk about straight away is that I think that people have a very kind of misconception about fitness trainers and their own like body well-being, as in like injuries and kind of just general health. I think that people have a kind of thought that we're fit all the time. Like we're
Superhuman.
never injured, we're
Yeah.
never hurting, we're never sore. We train like 6 times a week and it's just fine. I literally saw her in the car outside. She was like, "Oh, I can't walk from yesterday."
My legs.
But also like one of the first times I met you, I remember speaking about your injuries and kind of these sorts of things. So without going into your whole doctor file of facts of
I was gonna be like, which one?
you kind of grew up in CrossFit or kind of like grew like your last kind of
My last
training,
discipline, would have been
Yeah.
CrossFit.
so yeah, tell us about kind of your experience with injuries and how that's affected your training and these sorts of things.
Well, obviously, I did CrossFit for the longest. I've done a lot of different disciplines of sport, which we can kind of get into later. But obviously, just doing sport, it's injury provoking, right? Like when you're doing things that are that high intensity or that kind of level, especially because I did start to compete and things like that, it happens. Like it's the name of the game. You know what I mean? And you just learn to kind of always push through like, okay, well, I dislocated my shoulder. I'll be fine in a couple of weeks. You know what I mean? Or like my knee keeps buckling out of place. I think it's all right. I'll just do upper body today. Just do some pull-ups instead. So you just kind of learn to be okay with it. But it's last year, my last injury where I slipped a disc kind of really threw me out of the game. And that was really a life-changing one because I've had so many like little nibs and naps here and there over the years that I've kind of been able to move around. And I've finally had one that I wasn't able to maneuver around, and that was really, really hard and really, really life-changing. Like completely changed my training, completely changed what I was able to do. I couldn't even do classes at the studio for like 4 months, and I'm always in class.
Of
Like
course,
I'm just
yeah.
always in class. So, I mean, obviously people have this perception that we're fit to a certain level. Or like, I remember when my disc thing started happening, I thought I had just pulled something in my neck. And I would be like on the climber and like going a little bit slower. And I could see people watch you when you're training. And it's like, I don't think at all that it comes from a bad place. Like, I think people, it's a source of inspiration for them, right? They're like, come on, chase her. But you're like, I don't want to let you down that I'm not 100% today, but I'm not 100% today. And I feel like if I'm in here, I need to be 100% for you, but it's not about them. It's my hour.
Yeah, 100%.
It's my turn.
Definitely. I think that like when we train, we're actually training for ourselves sometimes. We're not training to like show off to the other people in class or whatever, but yeah, there is, I definitely feel that no matter whether you're in like a group class or in the gym or whatever, like if people see you, it's like, oh, that's that guy or oh, that's that girl. And then you're like, oh, like, shit, I better go heavy.
Yeah, yeah. Like, because you're trying to show up in one, whether it's for someone else or it's like it's your own ego sometimes, because you don't want, like, if you're having an off day and you're like, I just can't lift that weight, but there's people that come in and see you like smashing through like 6 days a week. On the 7th day, if you go in and you don't feel good, and they're kind of like looking at you and you're like, I better
Yeah, but it's bad
find a
because I
way.
think that as fitness professionals, we say to clients or PT clients or
Right.
people that come into class, like,
take it easy, listen
exactly,
to your body.
yeah, like, oh, you've trained 4 times already. Like, if you show up for the 5th time and it's not that great, then it's okay.
Yeah, or have a rest day. It's okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah,
Like,
but we don't do that, right?
Yeah.
And it's so true, because I remember when I used to PT, like, I'd always tell my clients, like, you're not allowed to train like more than, like, take it easy, take the days off, or like if they would fall off their diet, I'd be like, that's okay. Like, you're showing up every day for yourself. Like, you can have the burger. You know, I was so adamant on live a balanced lifestyle, and like eat what you want to eat and just show up for yourself as much as you can. But there's life outside of your training. You know what I mean? We're not training for the Olympics. Like,
Exactly.
we're not at that level of athlete that your entire livelihood revolves around what you do in training tomorrow. But I think it's also like we struggle practicing what we preach because of the pressure on us.
Yeah. I think as well that, so I'm not sure kind of what the kind of situation is for yourself, but for me, for example, like, so I played rugby at home, like through kind of, you just get injured playing rugby, right? Like, the worst one I've had was that I fractured my eye socket, like kind of all these things. But when you're in the UK and you do these things, it's like, okay, you go to the NHS and you get sorted and you go home. But
Eye
obviously,
socket.
yeah,
Legit.
yeah, that was the worst one. But I think that obviously here you have considerations, right? Like, if I start playing rugby again and I break my leg, then I can't teach for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And then I jeopardize my visa. I jeopardize my insurance.
Yep.
And all these things. So it kind of becomes like a fear of not really accepting the fact that you might be injured, because what happens if, you know?
Yeah. It's the ripple effect.
Exactly.
It affects
definitely.
everything else.
But tell us more about how your injuries then affected your training style.
So I was like kind of die hard into my CrossFit career. Like, I loved it. Like, I lived for it. I lived and breathed it.
2 seconds. When we were doing like the recon for this interview, I never realized you danced.
Yes, I
did
danced
not know that
my
at all.
entire childhood, like growing up until I was like 17.
What kind?
I did everything.
Jack in the Box.
Yeah, I'm a jack of all trades.
Okay.
I trained in everything. So I did everything from like ballet to jazz to hip hop. I even did ballroom. Like, I did a little bit of everything.
I love the fact that like people are gonna watch this and be like,
Nessa did ballroom.
Nessa the trainer, Nessa ballroom dancing. Like, this does not.
Yeah, I did it, and I loved it. Like,
You competed or you just
No.
socially,
The
or-
thing is, here there's not really dance competitions. It's more like you dance with a company and then you perform and you do shows, and like you get, selected to perform at different like shows and things like that.
Love
So
this.
yeah, it was kind of like, I guess at like a semi-professional level, I would get paid to dance at shows and things.
Amazing.
It was amazing. I loved it, but I kind of, again, like your body after a while screams, right? So I was doing it for over 10 years, and honestly, by the time I got to 17, I was just like, I was there 7 days a week, and it took up too much of my life. And when you're at that age, and that teenage age where you're just kind of like, I want to be free. So I kind of just stopped. I literally just one day stopped going.
I think it is. There's a lot of like dancers, swimmers, gymnasts. Like, when you're younger and when you can put in like 4 or 5 hours a day, but then you're like, well, I now can't put in this time.
Yeah. Or
So
it's
then-
even like, I don't want to. It's not like at 17 I had so much life responsibility. It's like I just didn't want to do it anymore. Like, I wanted to go have fun. Like, I hadn't had that kind of social life for a long time, because like back in the day when like our weekends were on a Friday, you would be at rehearsal all day. So I didn't even have a Friday. So it was more when I got to that age and all of my friends were out having a good time, I wanted to have a good time too. And luckily I had parents that were like, okay, well, if you don't want to do it, like, you don't have to do it. Just don't turn around and say you regret it later. And I was like, all right, definitely regretted it.
Did you ever?
Yeah. Even
Sorry.
now, I'm like, you know what? If I kept going, I would be sick. Like, I would be so good by this point. And I do kind of regret, like, not sticking to it. And with hindsight's always easy, right? To be like, I should have kept that discipline that I had built for 10 years. But that discipline has definitely trickled over into my sports, like, that I've done since that, for sure.
So then from dancing, you then went straight to CrossFit, or what was your journey after that?
No. After I danced, I kind of took a hiatus for like 3 years and did nothing.
Okay.
So from like 17 to like almost 20, I just did nothing. And then I started trying to kind of go back into the gym a little bit. So I was in a relationship, and my boyfriend, my boyfriend at the time, he loved going to the gym, like bodybuilding, obsessed. So I started going with him, and I told you this little like anecdote before where like by this point, obviously I was quite out of shape. I hadn't danced for years. I hadn't moved my body in years. I didn't do anything. So I'd like maybe play a bit of sport at school here or there. And then I started trying to go to the gym with him, and he was doing bodybuilding. I just didn't enjoy it. I just didn't like it. And then there would be girls in there that looked amazing and had these like great athletic figures and lifting these weights, and I couldn't lift anything. I couldn't even hold a plank for 10 seconds, by the way. Like I would collapse to the floor. And I used to go into the bathroom and just cry. And I would just cry and cry and cry because I was like, I'm never gonna look like that. Like, I'm so out of shape. Like, I don't know how these girls even got there, because obviously I had done sport my whole life, right? I didn't really go to the gym. Like, I don't even know what to do in here. Like, I felt really intimidated. Like, I really didn't feel good in there.
I think that at that age, like everyone, regardless of what your background is or what your intentions are, so like kind of flip side of you, I've always been in fitness. So I kind of went straight from rugby to rugby coaching to then teaching in studios or teaching in gyms. But even then, like as a impressionable sort of 21 to 22, 23-year-old, you're like, I do not belong here.
Yeah.
And I think that that's, again, regardless of what your experience is or what your kind of mindset is, it's like, shit.
Imposter syndrome.
Yeah, like everyone looks so much better than I do, and everyone is so much bigger, or oh my God, like they're lifting that. And I think that what I'm trying to relate this back to is that everyone starts somewhere, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Regardless of if you're 23 or 43, it doesn't matter. Like we all have this kind of massive like progress at the very start, which is really quick, and we're like, no, I can't. But then all of a sudden, like 6 months later, like, yes, I can. And I actually do belong here, and you know, like, you know. So yeah. So kind of I wanted to kind of flip on something you just said there was about bodybuilding and size and kind of all these things. So as a trainer, the reason I want to speak about this is because I think that you're someone who I've always looked at as being like super athletic, right? And I think that kind of, I wouldn't say you're an intimidating trainer. We're going to come to that in a little bit, but you've always been in like solid shape. In my eyes, right?
Okay,
in the time I've known you. So what I want to ask is that, have you ever, because I think that kind of now with social media and everything like that, it's, the word steroids is just kind of like thrown around, right? So you'll see people online and you'll see people like busting their ass, and then it's the comment section is, steroids.
Yeah.
Or like, oh, like you know, the jab emoji and these sorts of things. Is that something that you've ever had, or kind of like through your sort of bodybuilding phase, like, is that something that you ever kind of experienced?
Well, I never got into bodybuilding like that. I stopped it very quick. I've done it recently again, which we can circle back to. But I think when I was like in the peak of like doing CrossFit, there was comments thrown around here and there. And I just kind of laughed because I'm like, guys, like, look at the other CrossFit girls. Like, I'm not even close to the strength. And like, honestly, like I was always so in awe by like the elite level CrossFit girls. But I'm like, first of all, most of the people in the sport, at least here in the Middle East, to my knowledge, don't take any performance enhancers. And second of all, it was just kind of like, I don't. And if I did, I would have said it. And if I do, what is it to you? You know, like I would honestly, if I did ever take performance enhancers, I would have been like, hey guys, like I'm back squatting 300 kilos today, but it's because of this. Like, I'm not going to paint you some false narrative. It is a comment that was thrown around here and there, but it's just, I kind of just laughed it off, and I was like, I'm teeny tiny compared to some of these other girls. So,
but again, I think it is because it is that what's actually in front of you, right? Because the people on the street, they see you as, wow, you're massive, and wow, you're like bulky, and wow, all these things. But then we also know that there's a massive like 3, 4, 5 steps above us. That's people who are like actually massive,
like elite level. You know? Yeah, right.
Definitely,
to the average person, definitely. Like, I would walk into places and people would be like, "Whoa, how many days a week do you go to the gym?" I'm like, 4.
Love that.
You know. So, yeah.
Amazing. So if we kind of move on a little bit and we speak about kind of the reason, honestly, the reason why I've been so excited to have Nessa in is because I feel like she is such an open book and so like raw with the stories and the tales that she has to tell. So this is why we're kind of jumping into the main part of this so quickly, because I feel like in the other episodes it's been like a little bit of fluff and a little bit of this.
No fluff, straight to it.
Yeah,
Let's
no,
go.
like we're steroids, bang, here we go. Like, but no, I want to kind of speak about body image and kind of obviously like I just said, like in my mind, like you are in incredible shape. Like from the day I saw you first, like to right now, fair enough, like you've been a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller, all these sorts of things, but I want to kind of turn that around and be, how do you feel, or how have you kind of always felt about your own physique or your own body shape or your own body size?
Well, if I go back to kind of like the story I was telling about when I was crying in the bathroom, I wasn't happy with how I looked, obviously, because I had no muscle, no strength. And then after that, I kind of fell into calisthenics. I did that for about a year. I fell in love with it. And once I started calisthenics, I stopped caring about how I looked, because my goal was just like, I want to do 5 push-ups, you know, and that kind of like completely changed my perception of fitness. And it wasn't about how I looked anymore. It's about how I felt and how strong I was. Obviously, then I transitioned into CrossFit. And anything about body image completely went out the window when I did CrossFit. I didn't care what I looked like. I was like, the bigger I am, the stronger I am, the more I eat, the better I will perform, the more I'll show up for myself every day at the gym, the better I'll compete in the qualifiers and all of these things. And honestly, for the time that I did CrossFit, like, I really never, like, obviously you have days where you're like, oh, I would like to look a bit more this way, but more this way. And I think being in the fitness industry, you always are a little bit concerned about how you look. So I was always careful with my diet and things like that. But I knew I looked pretty good and I was happy with how I looked, but it wasn't a concern for me. What was the concern for me was my performance. Now, let's fast forward or backtrack to about a year ago now, when I got my slip disc injury and I wasn't allowed to do CrossFit anymore. I wasn't allowed to do anything with impact. I couldn't run, I couldn't jump. I couldn't even load a barbell on my back. I wasn't even allowed to wear like anything halter neck that would press down on my neck.
No way.
Yeah, it was really bad for a point in time. So I was like, well, I can't do the thing that I live and breathe for now, but obviously I'm never going to stop training. So I was like, well, let's try bodybuilding. Why not? And in hindsight, I wish that I never did that, because I have discovered that maybe as much as I believed that I never cared about how I looked, I truly did, but my sport allowed me to look in a way that I was really happy with without trying, right? So when that was taken away from me, obviously like the training frequency went down, the training intensity went down, my body just started to change. And like, I kept kind of eating the same way and just going to the gym and doing what I could, and started the bodybuilding thing. And I would say from about a year ago, my perception on my body has completely changed. And like, it's been a roller coaster. And to be honest with you, I've done therapy for it. Like, I've gone to traditional therapy for it, like talk therapy. I'm currently doing hypnotherapy for it, because it really affected my relationship with my body, my relationship with food, my relationship with my training, because I'm doing a training that I don't love because I can't do the thing that I love. I'm eating in a way that I've never and would have never wanted to eat, by kind of like restricting myself because I'm scared that my body's going to change too much. And honestly, it's been really hard. Like it's been tough. And I think, again, to people, they're like, but you look great. And I'm like, but I don't. Like, I'm not CrossFit NESA anymore. Like, she's gone and I can't get her back right now. And I don't like bodybuilding NESA, not because of the way she looks, but because of the way she feels about herself. Like, the way I see myself in the mirror has completely changed. And that breaks my heart for me, because I'm like, you've worked too hard, you've been disciplined for too long, and you show up too much for yourself every day to have that negative voice in your head. So immediately when I saw it kind of getting really out of control, I was like, I gotta go to therapy. I gotta fix this before it gets too bad. And I'm still working on it. And I've given myself permission now to be like, you don't have to stick to this 900 calorie diet. You don't have to do that. Like, if you want to eat a burger today, go for it. And like, over the last month or so, I think that's become better and better. But there was a little time there for 4 or 5 months where I I would do all the classic signs, like stand in the mirror, pick at your skin, and all of these things. But then, of course, nobody would ever know because I show up to the studio in my booty shorts and my little sports bra. I'm like, let's go, you know, and like just going crazy on the mic and hyping everyone up. And then, but every time you get a glance in the mirror, you're like, oh, but, and it's really bad. And like, if I saw anyone, whether it was a friend or client or stranger, look at like themselves like that in the mirror, I would honestly go over to them and be like, you don't need to do that. But I don't do that for myself.
Yeah, I think that, so kind of a recent example I have, I mean, I've kind of spoken quite openly about like that I don't really feel like I fit within a kind of standard traditional like fitness body. And I think actually kind of, you made a very good point there. As you were speaking, I was like, I think I might have that as well. Because so I played rugby my whole life, like up until 22. I played rugby to quite a high level and kind of all these things. So obviously I had like a rugby player's like body and physique, and I've always had like pretty wide shoulders and all these things. And then yeah, kind of like due to injury and stuff like that we spoke about before, like I stopped altogether. And then my mum died, and kind of like my relationship with food and all these things then went out the window. To the point where now like I still kind of, I should feel like I still have like a rugby player's like body and all these things, but like I don't do that anymore. Like I don't play.
It's changed.
Yeah,
Life's
exactly.
changed.
We've already spoke about like if I do start playing, then there's all these risks associated with playing and all these things. And so I very recently, kind of just at the start of the year, was like, I'm gonna like my goal by the end of the year is that I have a target weight in mind for myself, right? So I was like, right, let's do this. Let's take the first progress pictures and all these things, and the before and all these things. And then, honestly, I took that photos, side on and like
the first
front
one?
on, the first one, and I thought, fucking hell,
It's
like,
the worst moment ever.
Honestly,
Yeah.
And honestly, I then kind of thought like, it actually affected my training for maybe like the next 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Because I was like, that's what I actually look like.
Yeah.
Knowing that probably if I was to show it to a normal another person, they'd be like, oh, okay, like yeah, you can make changes and yeah, you can do this, but it's not that bad.
But also it's that positioning.
Yeah.
You never stand like
Exactly,
that.
right. Stand with your hands by your side, push your belly out.
Make yourself look as awful as possible.
Yeah, stand in your boxers just for the sake of it.
Yeah. Like that's actually not what you look like.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, kind of just to continue what you said there, I think that whether you think you're too skinny or too big or too muscly or too like not muscly enough, I think that we are so hard on ourselves because we've already spoke about it. Like if we had the PT client, we're like, well, no, you train 4 days a week. Why do you want to train a 5th day?
Yeah.
Like chill out.
Yeah.
Like eat what you want on Saturday.
Yeah.
Like it
go
doesn't
live
matter.
your life, go out with your friends, go see your family.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, like just to kind of, I think that it's such a, people outside of our industry or that kind of just come to our classes and see us like jump around on stage or kind of be amazing on the mic or whatever, they don't really sit and think like, I wonder how she feels right now. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
and I think a lot of the times in those situations, like harmlessly, people do pass comment on like, you know, what do you eat? Or like they'll ask you questions or make comments on your body. Like I've had people say to me like, oh, you look a lot bigger, or you look a lot smaller, or you've lost a lot of muscle, like, and harmlessly, right? But they don't understand the weight that carries because it's like, you're training in the room, but I'm standing in front of you for 50 minutes.
Yeah.
So after you've made that comment on my body, I'm standing there for 50 minutes worried if every single person is picking apart all of the insecurities I already have about myself.
Definitely. I think as well, like, so sometimes, I think obviously for guys, so I normally wear slightly like oversized stuff anyway, just because like I don't want things that like cling to my body, right? But sometimes you wear like a slightly different shaped t-shirt or something, people be like, oh, you've lost weight. I'm like, well, no, this is just what I actually normally look like, but I just normally wear baggier clothes so that, because I'm not comfortable in what I look like, you know? Like, so yeah, I think that, again, people like make comments, but again, it's not harmless, right? It's not like they want to take you up or they want to take you down. It's just,
they're just saying what's on their mind.
Comment, yeah.
But I think it's like, it would be great if maybe people focused a little bit more on doing some introspection to understand how would you feel if someone made a fleeting comment like that to you, and how would you carry it? And maybe instead of saying you've worn a different fit shirt today and someone says you lost weight, why don't you just say you look great today?
Definitely.
You know what I mean?
So tell us more about how kind of what was the turning point, or what was the kind of, not breaking point, but when you kind of thought to yourself, like, I am not happy with myself, that I'm kind of going to do something about it, and the fact that you like started speaking to someone or got therapy or these sorts of things. Like, what was the kind of turning point?
I think I had like a couple of moments where I did like a binge eat, and I knew that wasn't normal and it was very out of character for me. And every time I would eat something that was slightly off plan, I would feel super guilty. Like I would beat myself up over it, and I would start not eating the next day. And luckily I'm quite self-aware, so it didn't take like a big moment or anything for me to be like, okay, like I need to sit. I just noticed certain behaviors and I was like, this is not you, and this is not what you would want for anybody else, not even your worst enemy. So let's fix this up real quick, because if I'm not the best for me, I'm not the best for everybody around me, not my family, not my partner, not my dogs, not my friends, not the people I teach. And especially being someone that I go and I give advice on a daily basis to people that come to classes. On a daily basis, people are having conversations with me, and I'm giving advice to the best of my ability. I don't want to be a hypocrite. I don't want to be like, it's okay to train 4 days and not 5, and, cry myself to sleep if I didn't train that 5th day. It's okay to have off weeks or off days, or, it's okay to just be 80%, and I didn't want to not be the person I know I could be. So I didn't allow it.
Okay. That's interesting, because I think it is important that people realize that there isn't always a massive, like, today is the day I go to therapy.
Yeah.
Like, it can just be something really subtle, or something like you say, like self-awareness, be like, maybe this isn't right.
Yeah.
But so kind of if we take that and kind of move it into like your eating and sort of, so I mean, I'll kind of hold my hands up here first. I am probably the biggest emotional eater that I know. I'm
a very emotional eater.
Right. I feel like we can never spend time together.
No, we would be the end of us.
Right. Because obviously we kind of have very similar stories about how like we both lost a parent and kind of all these things. And so kind of to put some kind of numbers, I mean, yeah, okay, like I was 23 when my mum died. And kind of I went from just stopping playing rugby being like 89 to 90 kilos. And then kind of at my heaviest, maybe like 7 to 10 months later, I was 123. So I put on, so kind of that emotional like time of my life, I ended up putting on like 30 kilos, a little bit more, something like that.
Yeah.
And fair enough, like I've managed to lose some, but then there's always that risk of that, like something in my life can change and then it kind of goes off the charts again. Yeah. So like, are you kind of more the emotional eater where you like, you'll binge out, or are you the emotional eater where you'll be like, I'm not eating for 4 days? Or,
oh no, I'm the binger.
Yeah. and how does that kind of like affect how does that then affect your training, and how does that then affect like your body confidence and all these things?
Now, if we had this conversation 2 years ago, I'd be like, it doesn't. Because I was training so intensely, like so like rigorously, so many days a week, I could kind of get away with it. Like it didn't really affect anything. But now with the training that I do now, I eat something a little bit off the night and I see it straight on me the next morning. And to be honest, I'm still kind of navigating it. Like I'm still trying to figure out what's the healthy balance.
Would you say that you're working towards your ideal body right now, or are you still in a place of...
I'd say that I've made a decision not long ago, like literally in the last few days, where I've decided I'm going to start taking ownership back over my life and find a way that I can train in the way that actually fulfills me, and stop being afraid of food, and stop being afraid of going back into that kind of training, and train a little bit more carefully and do something that I feel fulfilled with, that I don't need to binge eat over and don't need to worry about what the scale says today or what my skin fold measurements are. I want to be the happy training Nessa again, and I want to find my like real love for training again. And I'm figuring it out. But if I had one piece of advice for anyone, is the moment where you feel like you feel out of control of yourself and you don't feel like you have that control with your body and your food and all of these things, go find something you love, because that will change everything. And maybe you haven't found it yet. Like, obviously I know I love CrossFit, but like, if I was maybe in a stage where I was like, I don't know what I love yet. Okay, I'm gonna go, try MMA. I'm gonna go try and dance. I'll go try and play tennis. Like, go and find something that sets your soul on fire. And don't get me wrong, you're not gonna show up every day and love it. You're probably not gonna love it that much. It's gonna be hard, but find something that makes you happy, and it completely changes your entire relationship with training and food.
I think that's so important, because obviously as trainers, we stand in front of people every day and we're like, okay, maybe you didn't enjoy like a ride class, so why don't you try X, Y, Z? And it's okay.
Yeah.
Like, we give them, not the excuse, but we give them the alternative.
Yeah.
But I do agree with you that we kind of beat the same drum every single day to be like, no, this is what I have to do. This is what I know I have to do. This is what I have to eat.
This is what people know that I do.
Exactly.
Or like, this is how people know me. So I kind of have to stick to this kind of perception that people have of me, but it's okay to completely change.
Exactly.
It's okay to go 180. It's fine.
I think it's so important as well that we as trainers kind of take a little step back, and you said it before, like, we're not at the Olympics. Like, we're not, I mean, as much as we'd love.
Deep.
Exactly, right? Like,
it's really not.
It's just a job. Like, no one's gonna, like, nothing bad's gonna happen if we are like a little bit off of it one day and all these things.
And
like,
I think we think that people notice more than they probably do.
100%.
Like, I feel like people really, like, as much as maybe people make comments, or, in class people are watching, you're in the gym or this and that, like, I think they forget about it half a second later, and we think about it for another 6 to 12 months.
Yeah.
100%.
100%.
And we have to practice non-attachment a little bit better, I think. And I think that honestly just comes with confidence, like really believing in yourself and what you stand for, and just being okay with whatever you show up with that day.
I think kind of as I've got older, so again, I will always tell this story about how sometimes I sit or stand at the front of a room and think to myself, like, why are these people like taking advice from me, or like kind of following what I'm saying, like when I kind of look like this? Because I don't feel like I fit in, but then I've almost kind of normalized that thought, which I almost think is quite dangerous as well, because now I'm like, well, that's fine. Like, I can look like this. It's okay. It doesn't matter.
But it is okay, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because you add your what you look like and your delivery as an instructor are not mutually exclusive. They're not. Like, it really does. And I should practice what I preach, but like, it really doesn't matter. It's what you're bringing. It's what you make people feel at the end of the day, right? So like, I always say your class is like going to a Tony Robbins seminar. Like, I walk out and I'm like, power, like, you're uplifting, and you're fun, and you're enjoying yourself, and you're like just motivating the shit out of everyone every second. Like, you have something out of your pocket for everybody any second that they need to hear something, right? Wow. And I'm like, Tony Robbins, like, it's what it is.
I'll take that.
And it's amazing, and like, that's your niche, and that's what you offer. And it's like, whether or not you can deadlift 6,000 kilos has no effect on the person you're training right now.
Definitely.
It really doesn't.
Definitely. So as someone that is, I mean, I don't know anything about fashion, but as someone who is potentially classified as like an influencer, would you classify yourself as an influencer?
Not whatsoever.
No?
I barely post on my Instagram.
Okay.
I maybe post on my story once. I was very active back in the day. Like, I would say a couple of years ago, I was super active, like in the scene, like going to all the events and stuff. Not anymore, but ask me the question.
Not anymore. So it's kind of where I'm wanting to get to with this is, I think that this is a lot more kind of probably relatable to girl maybe instructors or female instructors than male instructors, is that we kind of touched on it before, that the kind of comments that you maybe get from people online about like your body image, or the what you eat, or they kind of look at your story and you think, oh, like, why is she out until 2 o'clock in the morning, or whatever, like, kind of. Have you ever experienced anything where you're like, no, the comments that I'm getting online are like too much? Or
it's funny you say that 2 in the morning thing, because I remember when I was like in the peak of my fitness career, and I was like really peaking, like it was my moment, and I would never post if I was out at a party or out clubbing, because I was like, I don't want people to have this negative association of me. So I kind of never posted anything like that. Whereas now I'm like at brunch, I'm like, yeah, like it's me, like I'm a human too. Like, I have fun too. I think one thing that really stuck with me is the story that I told you about. So right after my dad had passed away. I'd obviously taken a lot of time off of work and training and everything in life. And I had made this announcement on my social media, like, hey guys, I'll be coming back in. Like, obviously I hadn't posted anything on my social media about my dad because it was very personal to me. I think I messaged about 3 people when it happened. And I told them to tell everybody, don't message me. I know you're sorry for my loss. I don't want to hear it. So I would never take to social media. And this is a point where I was very active on social media too. So I took a hiatus. Didn't work. And then I kind of made this announcement, like, I'll be back in 2-3 weeks, or like, you know, catch me on the schedule, like making announcements of all the different studios that I'll be back at. And I had posted a picture, and this guy had sent me my own picture and was like, what happened? You used to look so good. Where's your abs? And I was like, and this was also at a point where I wasn't super self-conscious, but it sent me. Like that same day I went to the gym, and I started training from that day because I was like, I can't show up back at work not looking at how I looked before I left. It's about like, no one's gonna come back to my class. Like my career's gonna be over. Well, my life was in a completely different situation, and it's okay if I didn't roll in with a 6-pack. It's all good. I still deliver the same class. I still won't not go back till I'm ready to deliver the best experience that I can deliver. And whether or not I have abs has no, you know, there's no correlation. But I remember that was one. I'm really lucky that throughout my time, like I didn't really get a lot of stick on social media. Like people were actually always very nice to me, but there were a few comments, always from men. Always from men.
I get this. I get this, but I get it too. But like, I get the fact that I think that it generally is men who are very disrespectful, if that's the right word to use, towards girls, and I think that I was speaking to someone about this the other day about how many likes a girl's photo gets versus a guy's photo, because it's normally like creepy men online that are just like sitting bashing like girls' photos. But yeah, like 100%, I do think that most kind of negative criticism comes from the guy who's like sitting behind his keyboard and is like, you look like shit now, like what happened?
But also it's like, you're not a nice man.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you're not a nice, but like, obviously I was young too. I was only 23 at that point. So it's like, now I'm almost 30, I'm 29. And if someone messaged me that, I would laugh and be like, you are not a good person, and I have like whatever you say does not affect me. Obviously I'm a lot older now. Like I know that no one with any substance that I know, no man of value, no like valuable human being, forget man, that I know would say something like that to someone unsolicited. So now that would never affect me. But as a 23-year-old who just lost her dad,
exactly. Like I said at the very start, like at that age we are still very impressionable human beings, right?
Yeah.
So I want to move on a little bit to talking about more you as instructor NESA.
Okay.
And this like badass, hardcore, never stop for a second.
What do you mean?
Instructor.
I'm so sweet and fluffy.
She tried to tell me this when we were talking before. She was like, I feel like I'm used to being intimidating, but now I'm like sweet and fluffy. I'm like,
I feel like I'm pretty fluffy.
Sure.
I have like a wrong perception of myself.
But I think that this comes down to you have, in my opinion, you have a very athlete mindset.
Yeah.
And kind of, we were speaking before about how the style that you like to train in affects how you deliver your classes.
Yeah.
So can you tell us more about that and how you see that kind of blend working between how your style of training then like bleeds into your format or your styling or your delivery as an instructor?
So my first coach ever, that kind of was the one I was with for a very long time. He got me into competing and all of this stuff. Shout out B. He was the one who kind of I'm very much into personal development, by the way, like mindset, all of these things. And he was the one who introduced growth mindset to me. And he used to train me to the point that I would be in like a WOD and I would be crying. And he would be like, come on, girl, let's go. And I'd be like, like just crying. Like, I can't do it anymore. He'd be like, yes, you fucking can. Like, and I would, can I swear? Well, it's happened now.
I mean, I think we've already passed that. How old were you when you were doing this?
I was young. I think I started with him when I was around 22. It was like before my dad died. So
okay.
I was with him even after that for a long time. I trained with B for like 4 years, something crazy like that. And he shaped me as like, not, I wouldn't call myself an athlete, but he shaped my athletic world in like, push yourself, show up for yourself, don't back down. Like, you always have more to give. And I lived and breathed that 5 days a week, like for 4 years. And that's just how I trained. And so I saw what that did for not only my body, my mental health, my physical condition, like how fit I was, how confident I was, and my delivery as an instructor too. Like, nobody could tell me nothing. Like, I know that I can do whatever I'm giving you, so try, because I would never give you something I can't do. And I guess that just translates, like, I teach what I would want to take. So like, if I'm in a class, I want to die. Like, I want to be like, kill me. Like, I want to be like gasping for air.
I love how you didn't kill me now.
Kill me.
You didn't finish that sentence.
Yeah, no, not now, but just kill me in general. Like, I want the struggle, because that's when I feel like I pushed myself to an extreme that I didn't go to before. So like, for me, every time I show up into training, generally pre-injury, was kind of, I want to go somewhere that I've never gone in some element of my day-to-day, whether it's like I do a little bit more on my gymnastics, I walk a step further in my handstand walk, I shave off 1 second off a benchmark WOD, I've lifted a little bit heavier, I did an extra rep. I want to go to a new height every single time I train, because why wouldn't I?
Yeah.
Why would I? And it's just how I'm wired. And like, I think it also, that goes back to having an entrepreneur dad growing up, because it's like, you show up every day. It doesn't matter what's going on. You show up, and you show up for yourself, because no one's going to be able to do that for you. You show up to the gym, only you have control over that. And I really believe it's the only thing in life that any other factor does not play into it. You have full control over that. Nothing else comes into that. There's no variables. It's just you. So it's a you versus you thing. So I teach, and I really do think my classes are too intense for some people, and that's okay. Like, I don't take that personally. Like, it's just not for you. But I know that the people that show up and train with me week on week, I see them get better every week.
Yeah. I think that it's important that, like, as instructors, regardless of whether I teach in a more motivational way, you teach in a more like, not dictatorship, but that's the only word that came to my mind. But you know what I mean?
Yeah. But it's perfect analogy for it.
That we want our participants to realize something in themselves that they can't or haven't realized yet. So like, we try and get that 1%, like day on day, week on week, that, like we said at the very start, like, you walk into the gym or the class on day one and you think, nah, fuck no. Like, no way can I do that. Or like, they see you jumping around and you think, like, she's way out of my league.
Yeah.
And then gradually, like, we build blocks, regardless of what method or kind of formula the instructor uses. They get better, and we grow that 1% better every day. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh wow, like, I am in that weight, or I am hitting that kind of that time, or knocking off seconds off like sprints or whatever. So no, like, I actually really respect the fact that, like, even though people come to you on like a daily, weekly basis and say, nah, your classes are too hard, that you're like, I don't care.
Yeah. Because I'm like, it shouldn't, first of all, it shouldn't be easy, and it shouldn't get easier either. Like, people always say, like, when does it feel better? I'm like, it doesn't.
Yeah, never.
Because when you've reached that kind of level that you weren't at yet, you lift heavier, you move faster, you train harder. So like, you built that capacity. Like, it shouldn't be easy. If it was easy, you could just do it on your own. I would be obsolete. If you wanted to show up here and just have a nice little fluffy old time, my job would be obsolete. So my job is to make you suffer.
This is just a random question I'm going to ask, because honestly, when I was writing these, I actually was getting ready for a class.
Okay.
And I have a couple of these, but I'm going to ask you first. Do you have any pre-class rituals? Like something that you do before every class?
It's not really a ritual. I would say that I'm always early, because I always want to try and make contact with whoever's going to be in my class.
Yeah, she showed up here 20 minutes before I did.
Yeah.
I was like, I've just left.
I have like the being late anxiety, but it's in more of a class. I'm always early everywhere anyways, but in more of a class situation, because I know that once the mic goes on, my character changes. I try and make like a, hey, how are you? Kind of like little moment that people are like, okay, she's nice. Oh. And then afterwards again, they're like, oh, she's
So
nice.
you lure people in.
I lure people in, yeah. Yeah, false sense of security.
This one's going to be fine. It's okay.
It's like
No, it's
Stockholm
not.
syndrome. I make them love me, but it's more just like, I think Nessa and Nessa on the mic are two very different people. So I make a point, and I guess that would be my ritual, to get there before class, to have some kind of point of contact so that they're not in shock.
I wish mine was as good as that.
What's yours?
I always clean my teeth.
I mean, I would hope you would clean your teeth
No,
anyways.
but like 5 minutes before class, I'll
You're
clean
like,
my teeth. Yeah.
It's not Colgate ad.
But yeah, honestly, it's something. And if I don't do it, then I know.
You know what? I would have thought it was to walk in without.
Oh my god.
To
So
walk in
no
without any.
context. Me and Nessa, I've got this like back and forth thing about like my feet right now. I don't know why. Please don't zoom into my feet. Please don't.
You have shoes on. It's different.
but yeah. So that's where that came from. But yeah, I always.
You know what it is? It's like anytime I'm in the studio, I know Kyle's there because I can hear the feet.
This
I
slapping.
can feel the slapping of his toes on the floor, and I'm like, Kyle! And people are like, how do you know Kyle's here? I'm like, wait. And he'll open the door. He'll be like, hey guys. I'm like, see, they're like, how did you know that? I'm like,
I love how you're
the
just
feet.
like, I'm just like Mowgli over here.
I'm ready.
Wow. We've been destroyed right now. I don't even know where the questions are going now.
You're like, thank you for coming.
Right? And cut. But anyway, let's try and wrap this. We're serious.
Serious.
No, I'm joking, I'm joking. Right, okay, we're starting to kind of wrap this thing up. So at the end of every episode of the podcast, you will be left a question by the guest who was here before. Mm-hmm. And Ahmed left you a question that honestly, when he asked it, like we had a bit of a conversation about it, and I now have an answer to the question.
I actually watched of course I watched podcasts, but I paused it because I was like, I don't want to know what it is.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, so I paused it because I was like, I don't want to think about it.
Ah, no way.
Yeah.
Okay, so you don't know what it is?
No.
Okay, well, I hope it doesn't stump you as much as it stumped me.
I'm like, can we pause?
The question is, do you remember your first ever class? And, like, can you describe it?
So my first ever studio class, I 100% remember.
Where was it?
It was at Barry's.
Okay.
That was like my first studio kind of like test class. And you know what? Like, whenever I think back to this, I have one vision that I clearly remember. So my sister, she does like boxing and stuff. And I love her. Like, she just shows up for me 100 all the time. And she doesn't run. She doesn't do boot camp. She doesn't do studios. It's not her thing. And I was so stressed going into this class because back in the day, when like Barry's was like the place, it was a lot of pressure. Like there was so much. I remember like sweating. I cried the night. My first class was actually on like 1st of January or something. It was like I didn't even go out New Year's Eve. I went to bed at 9 p.m. I like woke up super early. I like was reading through my program. I was like listening over my playlist. Like I didn't want to miss a beat. Like I just wanted, because the training was super hard. It was a very competitive studio to get into back then.
That's a high level to start
But
at.
back then it was really hard to get into it. It was really like, there was people that would be in training that would just get kicked out. Like it was a thing. And I was so nervous, and like anytime I think back to this class, I remember being like super nervous, and because you're like treadmill floor, and there's so much going on, and like the like management are like watching you and like grading you, like something like super intense. It's not that deep. Like, just guys relax. Like, they got like pen and papers. They're like watching you, like counting your time. Like, how many seconds plus minus 5 seconds did you go over? Like, recording all these things. And I remember looking over at my sister with like her skater shoes on the treadmill, like running. And I was just like, it just changed everything in that moment. And it reminded me like, it's not that deep. And like, as long as, and like she was with her friend and like they were laughing, and I was like, the fact that them two are laughing because they never do this kind of stuff means that they're having a good time, and that's what matters. And like that changed like a very stressful, high pressure situation for me into like a very fond memory. And like, I love my sister for that, because she just showed up for me on that day. She didn't need to, and it was something so out of her wheelhouse. And like, I will always have, I can literally see it when I think about it.
Amazing. So again, when Ahmed asked this question last time, I was like, I don't remember. Like I
You're
genuinely
like
don't
years and
remember.
years ago.
Exactly, right? Because like I said, like I mean, this would have probably been when I was 21. So it's like 12 years ago or something like that. So I started in Les Mills. I used to teach body pump. That was the first, right, exactly. That was the first program I ever taught. And obviously like you get, so Les Mills, if you don't know that, like Les Mills is programmed. So it's not the instructor that makes the workout. It's actually programmed by Les Mills. You get choreography notes and you learn it and then you deliver what's on the paper. And
I'm so excited.
I remember, honestly, like, literally being like, I can't remember this.
What was it? Body pump? It was body pump.
Yeah. Body pump.
But you have to remember the whole class, like the whole hour. Like you don't have a sheet.
No. And obviously, like their brand guidelines is that you get given choreography notes and then you don't have anything around you when you're performing. You teach and you just know it off by heart. So I had sheets of paper all over the floor and it was a disaster. A disaster. Because so the way that it normally works is you do a 4x4 tempo to start, which is obviously slow.
Yeah.
You then do a 3-in-1, then a 2-in-2, then a single.
Okay.
So now that you know music, you know that makes sense.
Yeah.
But when you're just looking at numbers on a page, you're like, I don't know this. So like it could be a squat or it could be a tricep extension. And it kind of follows like 4s, 3s, 2s, 1s.
Makes sense.
But
Didn't at the time.
No. And I remember, the reason I remember that there was notes on the floor is because I was thinking back. And I started to sweat like on the paper.
So then it was just ink.
So then there was just like paper with like sweat patches on them and stuff like that. And it was really cute, honestly.
Really cute. Right. I would have given it a different one.
So I think that because now obviously you see instructors who have notes and who are like, they write out every single second of songs and things like that. I'm like, get rid of your notes as soon as you can.
Yeah, just feel it. Like,
exactly. You're like,
just feel it.
Be authentic when you teach.
Yeah.
Teach from yourself.
But I think that comes with time and confidence. Like, obviously, when I first started teaching, I did the same thing. And now I obviously still program. I know what I'm going to teach. But like, sometimes I'll just be like, okay, like, bicep variation 2 minutes, and then I hear the music and you're adding the pulses and things like that because you're not afraid to slip up. I think that confidence comes with experience and you're just kind of like, I'm just gonna add a little pulse here, a little in and out here. I'm just gonna bring it. And like, if you miss a beat or mess up, like no one really knows. And it's not the end of the world. Like you literally just reset and you just do something different.
So we've answered Ahmed's question.
Yes.
So now
I have to think of a question.
It's your turn. Think of a question. I love that.
Okay. Was there ever a time that you wanted to stop? Why? And why didn't you?
Okay. So that is the question for the next person.
Yeah.
And I'll answer that next time as well because 100%.
Yeah. Because I did stop for a while. So I'm like, I'd be interested to know like what would have made someone else do it and come back. Because when I stopped teaching to go start my business, I was like, I will never get on a mic again.
No way.
It will never happen. And when I started again, I was like, a piece of my soul has come back. And like, I would have never thought I missed it the way that I did. But like, it's literally like my favorite thing that I teach 7 days a week, Kyle.
Love it.
Like, I love it. Like, it gives me life. So I'd be interested to know that journey for other people too.
Amazing. Okay, well, there we go. Nessa, thank you so much for your time. Honestly, I've loved this. I loved it.
Yay.
And honestly, guys, hope you have enjoyed yourself at home as well. Thank you so much for watching. And like, share, comment, subscribe on our YouTube channel. And Nessa, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Woo!